So issue
Om
with the
Ajnana Timandasya Chinansala Shnaka Shakshunvitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah Chichitayamanopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutaleshvam Rupagadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shio Shiyuda Padkamanam Shiram Vaishnavamsha Shirupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadutam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jyatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavana Sutta Devi Panamama Haripriye Pancha Kauta Vishakhe Pasan Vivisha Patnam Pavana Bhyo Vaishnavya Namana Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravanya Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachari Desatarane. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we are continue with our discussion on Nectar of Instruction. It is important while we study also the Bhagavatam that we study Nectar of Instruction, which includes Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada said is the manual of devotional service. Devotees should know this manual in and out. That therefore it's good to remind us of the basic principles of devotional service while studying Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, so that we can relate to the scriptures, how it fits in our process of devotional service. We have been discussing this Nectar of Instruction for some time, and we are going in depth. We are doing it now in the morning because for me in the evening is here at night and my health cannot take it anymore. Old age is also coming and a lot of traveling. So I have my limitations, but it's good. Thank you for allowing me to present this on Tuesday mornings, and we will try to continue like that. So we discussed in this Nectar of Instruction the necessity to control our senses. And that was the first verse. The second verse were 6 things not to do. And the third verse, 6 things we should do in devotional service. And if we do these things, then we are developing a selfless character. And we are ready for spiritual exchanges, 6 times of exchanges between devotees, giving gifts, receiving gifts, hearing one devotee revealing his mind confidentially to another and vice versa. And the offering prasad, receiving prasad. But then text 5 now explains 3 types of devotees, because to properly engage in these 6 loving exchanges explained in the previous verse, Prabhupada says, one must know on which level the devotees are and on which level we are. Therefore, this verse starts with describing these 3 levels of devotees. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravanya Pacharani Nirvishesa Sinyavadi Paskachai Desatarani. Krishneti Yasagiri Tamanasadayita Dikshasti Sat Pranatibis Sabhajantamisha Susrusaya Bhajana Vishyamananyam Anyam Nindadi Sunyaridamipshita Sanghalabdya. that so I read the verse again. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisance to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation diksha and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate and faithfully serve the devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So 3 types of devotees. The first devotee is mentioned here, one who chants the holy name. One should mentally honor this person. That, but at the same time, that we should consider. We have heard last time the characteristics of a third-class devotee, which is this devotee chants the holy name, and he worships also the devotee as faith that he worships also the deity, and he has faith in that the deity is God, but he does not properly behave towards other devotees. He cannot distinguish on what level they are, and therefore he makes offenses because he has still a big false ego. So that's called a Prakriti Bhakta or Kanishta Adhikara, which is, and we discussed last week this verse describing this third-class devotee by Havyogendra, and so King Nimi is asking Navyogendra, one of the Paramahamsa sons of King Rishabhadev, about the 3 types of devotees, and said the third devotee is Acharyam evaharaye pucham shashadayate nabhakte susanyasu sabhakta pragatasmitya. So it's one who engages faithfully in worship of the deity, but does not behave properly toward devotee. Is a Prakriti Bhakta, a materialistic devotee, is in the lowest position. Such a devotee as also his faith in the scriptures and Krishna is low, and his knowledge is practically nothing. He has no deep knowledge about the process of devotional service, no deep knowledge about Krishna. And we should always be aware when we don't have much knowledge of the scriptures, then we are always in a dangerous position. Because when you get knowledge of the scriptures, you get a wealth that's the greatest wealth, because you can see your life through this knowledge. That is our guideline. And a Prakriti Bhakti does not have that. It still speculates, identifies with the mind, and so on. But now we have the second class devotee is described here in the purport. We're going to the purport, and then you have here the second part, the second platform. The one therefore has to raise himself from the position of the Kanishta Adhikara to the platform of Madhyam Adhikhari. The Madhyam Adhikhari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 11-46. And in this lesson today, we will speak about this Madhyam Adhikari from the Bhagavatam. So, Ishvaratat Adineshu Balisheshu Trivatshucha Prema Maitri Kipomekta Yat Karoti Samathyamaha. An intermediate or second-class devotee called Madhyam Adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord shows mercy to the ignorant people who are innocent and disregard those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the Madhyam Adhikhari. The Madhyam Adhikhari, that platform, we can achieve after 30, 40 years of practice, we come close to that. Because Madhyam Adhikhari is liberated. There's no material desires anymore. And therefore, as a consequence, he doesn't suffer. He's liberated from material bondage. This is Arthanivritti, the purification of the heart, the stage of purification of the heart is finished. And he comes to Nishtha, steadiness in devotional service. And he has the ability to constantly fix his mind on Krishna and starts beginning to develop love for Krishna. So such a devotee, he sees four categories. We are described in the verse as for the Ishvari, personality of Godhead, that it is said here, he tries to develop his relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that he tries to develop love, prema, for Krishna. And the Tat Adinesu, those are all the devotees who are following the process of Krishna consciousness. What is his relationship with them is Maitri, friendship. And then that the Bali Shesha, the neophytes or the ignorants, the new devotees. New devotees or ignorant people who are not offensive and are open to hear about Krishna consciousness. His relationship is kripa. He gives them mercy, tries to uplift them. But at Vivatshu, those who are envious of Krishna, upeksha, he neglects them. So these are four relationships that a Madhyam Adhikhari has. Now, what can we learn from that? That we must also act as an Madhyam Adhikhari, although we are not on that platform. It means we must try to develop love for Krishna. We can try to develop friendship with devotees. We can preach to all those who are innocent newcomers, and that. But we should avoid those who are envious of Krishna, because if you preach to the envious, they will blaspheme Krishna and make offenses, and that's not good for them. And your preaching will have no much effect. I will read translation again. So this verse is important for us because this verse is a guideline for us how we should act. We should act as a Madhyam. Does not mean that we are a Madhyam, but by acting as a Madhyam, we surely will be elevated to that platform of Madhyam. So an intermediate or second-class devotee called Madhyam Adhikhari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord. He shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent and disregard those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we will hear Srila Prabhupada's commentary of this verse. According to Bhagavad Gita, every living entity within the material world is eternally a minute fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mamaivam Shochivelaku Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So that is what we are. But because of the influence of Maya, the puffed up conditioned soul becomes inimical to the service of the Lord, and the Lord's devotees choose leaders among the materialistic sense gratifiers and thus engage busily in a useless society of cheater and the cheated, a society of the blind leading the blind into a ditch. So this means every moment we are not connected with Krishna to devotional service, we are in Maya. We are deviating that. And yes, the influence of the illusory energy makes us puffed up. Thinks us we ourselves are the doers, we are the Ishvaras, and we are the enjoyers, which we are not. And leaders engage on others in leading others how to enjoy and control material nature for their sense gratification, and identify more and more with being the body and forget the needs of the soul. That, Prabhupada says, is a society of the cheaters and the cheated, a society of the blind leading the blind into a ditch. Prabhupada, he says, the blind leading the blind into a ditch. Factually, he's just quoting Shastra here. That's the verse of Prahlad Maharaj speaking, instructing Hiranyakashipu, because here we see Prahlad is an Uttam Adhikari, but it takes the position of Madhyam Adhikhari, preacher, and preaches to Hiranyakashipu, who is envious. And what will be the effect? Not good. That the Hiranyakashipu will become more and more inimical. But dat is verse, Natevitus Vartaratimi Vishnum Durasi Yebar Achtamanina. Andayat Anderpania Manaste Pisantram Udamni Bada. So in this verse, Prahlad Maharaj said, persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted their leader or gurus or similar blind men attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. A blind man guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch. Material attachment led by another material attached man are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. And that is happening when you are attached to sense gratification. You want more sense gratification, and your whole life is usually directed toward that goal, forgetting your real self. You become disconnected with your real self. So although the community of Vaishnavas is sincerely eager to serve the conditioned soul by bringing them back to their constitutional position, by Maya's influence, the materialistic living entity becomes hard-hearted and rejects the mercy of the Lord's devotees. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, although a second-class devotee is eager to preach to the innocent conditioned souls, he should avoid the atheistic class of men so that he will not become disturbed or polluted by their association. Although second-class devotee is eager to preach, he should avoid atheistic men, so that he will not become disturbed or polluted by their association. Interesting. Prabhupada says also, we may become polluted by their association. Interesting. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has confirmed that the Vaishnavas should be indifferent to those who are envious of the Supreme Lord. So it says here indifferent, not inimical, indifferent. It is practically seen that when such persons are informed of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they attempt to ridicule the Supreme Lord thus further deteriorating their polluted existence. So they are blaspheming the Supreme Lord, like I said before. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has quoted from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10:20:36. 10th canto, 20:36. Hirayo mamoshustoyam kvashina mamokshu sivam yata hyanamritam kale hyanino tatate nava. Sometimes in autumn, the water falls down from the tops of the hills to supply clean water, and sometimes the water stops. Similarly, sometimes great saintly persons distribute clear water, and sometimes they are silent. So sometimes they are merciful, but if they are coming in contact with the envious of Krishna, they are silent. That this is from the description of autumn, of summer or autumn in Vrindavan from the 10th canto. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned that although the first-class devotee of the Lord may at times exhibit apparent hatred toward the demons because of entering the mood of the Lord's pastimes, the intermediate devotee should avoid such feelings. Furthermore, so it says, this clarifies that we should be careful with association with these demons. That the first class devotee of Lord may at times exhibit apparent hatred toward the demons because of entering the mood of the Lord's pastimes. The intermediate devotee should avoid such feelings. So we should avoid being equal to all living entities, but still understanding this person is envious of Krishna. One is envious who is very proud of everything what they do. They don't need God. Don't need God. That they only believe in hard work and getting the results by their own effort. But they forget that that these results are bestowed by the Supreme Lord, whether you are working hard or not, that He will decide that. So, because there is danger that this mind will become bewildered by such association. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, if a Vaishnava preacher encounters one who is envious of him, the preacher should remain far away from such envious person. But the Vaishnava preacher may meditate upon ways to save the envious class of man. That's another side. Such meditation is called satachara, saintly behavior. That's a saintly person also wishes the best for everyone. Means spiritually, that's the best. Because there are two kinds of benedictions. That the benedictions we are eternal, or temporary benedictions. That most people are interested in immediate benefit, but a devotee is interested in a lasting benefit, spiritual benefit. Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned Prahlad Maharaj as an example of a saintly person in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9:43. 7:9:43. There is the following statement of Prahlad Maharaj, and that's the mercy of a devotee, or how he thinks always how to save these envious people. That's a famous verse that this is a prayer to Lord Nrsimhadev for Prahlad Maharaj. Nai vatviche pradrachaya vaitaranyas tvat virya gayana mahamrita mahna chita. Chochetato vimakasheta indriyakta maya sukaya baramutvato vimudam. O best of the great personalities, I'm not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I'm fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. Although a Vaishnava preacher constantly meditates on the welfare of all living entities, he will not associate with those who are unreceptive to the message of the Supreme Lord Krishna. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that even Bharat Maharaj, Vyasadeva, and Sukadev Goswami do not exhibit their mercy indiscriminately, so without discrimination. That so a preacher will not associate with those who are unreceptive to the message of the Supreme Lord. When Prabhupada came to America, who was receptive? Some hippies were receptive because the 60s was the movement, the social reform movements came up, that the young people did not want to take up the materialistic life of their parents because they could see that it will not make them happy, and they rejected it. But they had no alternative. But when they heard about Krishna consciousness, immediately they accepted, because they renounced already their old ways of life. So receptivity. Who is receptive? One who is in a junction of his life, like college students also. They are in a junction. They are deciding what I'm going to do with my life. That from that campus preaching in the US in the beginning of the 70s, many devotees came. So many. So yes. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given an elaborate explanation to prove that the discrimination employed by a Madhyam Adhikhari preacher does not at all show a lack of mercy. He states that upeksha, or neglect, as mentioned in this verse, is the proper medicine for those who are inimical to the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Indifference from the preacher checks feelings on hostility on both sides. Although there is a Vedic injunction that one should cut out the tongue of a person who offends the Supreme Lord and his devotees, in this age it is simply to avoid potential offenders and thus prevent them from committing further sinful activities against the Vaishnavas, because practically everyone is envious towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because we got this material body. Why? Because of envy towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The personality of the position of the Personality of Godhead is that is the possessor of everyone and the enjoyer. But we want to be the possessor and the enjoyer. But it belongs to him, so that is envy. And therefore we came into this material world, so everyone is envious. But those who have, when one receives the human form of life, then the point comes, in the human form of life, you have the intelligence to think and to discriminate and to think and to question, who am I? Where do I come from? Where do I go? Why am I suffering? But most people are not asking these questions. They are just in the illusory energy trying to satisfy this body which they are not, until it falls down. and that's due to the illusory energy. In Kali Yuga especially, everyone is no offender. One should cut out the tongue of a person who offends the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should cut out the tongue of everyone. It's not practical. No, better to avoid, especially in this age, potential offenders, and thus prevent them from committing further sinful activities and against the Vaishnavas. It is the duty of a Vaishnava preacher to point out the futility of any process besides surrendering to the Supreme Lord. That's a lesson we have to learn, that only this devotional service is useful. The rest is also temporary and yield no eternal benefits, only temporary reactions, mostly misery. So an envious person, however, will resent such strong preaching by a Vaishnava and disrespect him, considering the devotee to be unnecessarily criticizing others. Such a person who cannot appreciate the mercy of the Vaishnavas should be neglected. Otherwise, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his cheating mentality will increase day by day. It's like then offering milk to a serpent. It will increase his venom, that's all. That it will become more poisonous. Those who are not attracted to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who disrespect the faithful servants of Chaitanya consider their strong statements about the Sankirtan movement to be obstacles to their own worship of the Lord, will never be able to fix their minds on Krishna, but will gladly fall down from the path of devotion by confusing the external activities of the material world with the actual worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Such bewilderment has been expressed by the words Bhayam Tvitiya Biniveshatasya. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has strongly rejected those foolish persons who, under a plea of mercy and equal vision, perceive that a faithless person is also a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and who thus try to trust the Harinam or holy name of God upon such offensive people. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has stated, when childish people think themselves Mahabharavatas and act in defiance of the Vaishnava spiritual master, such behavior simply holds them back from receiving the mercy of a Vaishnava Guru. Bewildered by false ego, these self-complained devotees shall become fit to be ignored by the pure devotees on the intermediate platform and are cheated of the mercy that comes from the devotee's satisfaction. Thus they become asadu by constantly committing offenses against devotees who preach the holy name of Krishna. So Prabhupada says here that these envious people, they may offend Krishna, but they will also offend the devotees, and that's worse, because the mercy comes through the devotees. Without the devotees' mercy, especially from the spiritual master Prabhupada and the devotees, we cannot make spiritual advancement. If we avoid them, then no way to take up bhakti. So pure devotees, therefore, in all circumstances, display indifference to those falsely imagine themselves to be Visuddha Bhaktas or pure devotees of the Lord. This indifference is an excellent manifestation of their mercy. In other words, those who criticize the Vaishnava preachers on the second-class platform for discriminating with those who are fit to receive the Lord's mercy and those who are simply envious are misunderstanding the mission of the Lord. Krishna himself states in Bhagavad Gita, Pritranaya sadnam vinasaya sadushkadam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavani yuge yuge. That to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to establish the principles of religion, I advance myself millennium after millennium. Even such a great Vaishnava, Sukadev Goswami, one of the 12 Madhyams in this universe, expresses this contempt for the evil Kamsa. So Jiva Goswami pointed out that even though the Mahabharata devotee may act on the second-class platform for preaching, his rejection of the envious living entities does not obstruct his vision of the Lord as all-pervading. Rather, when a first-class devotee or even a second-class devotee rejects the atheistic class of man, is expressing the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what Prabhupada is stressing here, they may reject the atheist, they may criticize the demons, but that's because they are assisting Krishna in his pastimes, his preaching, to protect the devotees, to save the devotees, and to annihilate the demons. But at the same time, they know everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna. And everyone is not really a devotee of Krishna, but just they forgot. So first class or second class Vaishnava never actually becomes envious of another living entity, but out of intense love for the Supreme Lord, he becomes angry when the Lord is offended. Also understanding the Lord's mission, he discriminates according to a position of a particular living entity. To consider such a Vaishnava preacher an ordinary envious person, or to consider him sectarian because of his proclamation of pure devotional service as the most exalted of all methods of spiritual advancement, reflects a vision called Vaishnava Jati Buddhihi, or Guru Sunara Matihi. Such an offense drags the offender down to the hellish condition of life by the laws of nature. So we have seen that those who are offending devotees, they should not expect anything auspicious in their lives anymore. And that is a fact. Even the devotee must not be a pure devotee, but a sincere devotee. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, although Mahabharata sees every living entity as a pure spirit soul, such a Mahabharata still experiences special ecstasies and other symptoms upon meeting another Vaishnava. So this shows the very sweet interactions between advanced devotees. So this is not contradictory to his vision as a topmost devotee, rather it is a symptom of his love for Krishna. A pure devotee sees every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore expresses his love for Krishna through love for all the expansions and creations of Krishna. Still, such a Mahabharata devotee feels special ecstatic love upon seeing another living entity directly pleasing the senses of the Supreme Lord. So that is an advanced devotee. He sees another devotee serving the Lord and he thinks this devotee is better than me. This is also devotee said, if we sincere please the spiritual master and serving Krishna through him, then Srimati Radharani may say to Krishna, look, this devotee is better than me. You be merciful to him. So the mercy of Srimati Radharani comes by serving sincerely the spiritual master instructions. Such feelings are manifest in the statement of Lord Shiva to the Prashedas. Kshanartana pitulaye Svasnasvaram napunam bhavam bhagavat sangrasangrasya martyanam kim utashisha. If one by chance associates with a devotee, even for a fraction of a moment, he no longer is subject to the attraction by the results of karma or jnana. What interest then can we have in the benediction of the demigods who are subject to the laws of birth and death Lord Shiva also states, Ata Bhagavata Yuyam Priyasta Bharavanyata Namad Bhagavatanam Cha Priyan Anyo Sikarachit. You are all devotees of the Lord, and as such appreciate that you are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I know that in this way the devotees also respect me, and that I'm dear to them. Thus no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am. Similarly, in Bhagavatam, 1st Canto 1.7.11, Sukadev Goswami mentioned as Nityam Vishnu Chana Priyaha, especially dear to the pure devotees of the Lord. So the wonderling loving dealings between Vaishnavas on the topmost platform are demonstrated in the pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In other words, although Vaishnava sees every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna, he must discriminate in his external behavior so as not to interfere with the original purpose of the Lord's creation, which is to reform the living entities so that they can healthily come back home, back to Godhead. A pure devotee does not foolishly pretend equal vision and approach envious persons. Rather, he respects the mission of the Lord as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita me On the other hand, if it is the Lord's desire, a pure devotee can offer his respect to all living beings. For example, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that Uddhav and other pure devotees of the Lord were always prepared to offer respectful obeisance even to such persons as Duryodhana. Madhyam Adhikaris, however, should not imitate such Uttam Adhikari behavior. In this connection, the distinction between Madhyam Adhikari and Uttam Adhikari is stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as follows: Atra sarva bhutesu Bhagavad darshanayo yata yasya kadachita api nadrishta. A Madhyam Adhikari cannot at any time perceive the presence of the Supreme Lord within all living beings, whereas the Uttam Adhikari, however he acts on the second-class platform to carry out the Lord's mission, is aware that every living entity is ultimately a forgetful Krishna-conscious living entity. Therefore, although a devotee may externally engage 4 different types of behavior, as mentioned in this verse, namely worship of the Lord, friendship with the devotees, preaching to the innocent, and rejection of the demons, he is not necessary on the second-class platform, since an Uttam Adhikari also may exhibit these symptoms to carry out the Lord's mission. So what Prabhupada is saying here, that an Madhyam Adhikari has these 4 relationships: love for Krishna, friendship for the devotees, preaching to the innocent, avoiding those who are envious. He said an Uttam Adhikari can also do that, can come to the platform of a Madhyam, because when the Uttam Adhikari sees everyone as a servant of Krishna, but they have forgotten it. But the Uttam Adhikari thinks everyone is a better servant than me, even the demons. So that's a problem. You cannot preach on that platform. So the Uttam Adhikari comes down to the Madhyam platform to preach. And that was Prabhupada. That's what says here. The Uttam Adhikari can also exhibit these symptoms, but just for preaching, for the mission. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that it is the duty of the Madhyam Adhikari to extend himself as the right hand of the Uttam Adhikari, vowing to work for the benefit of others and offering to help in distributing love of Krishna. So our Uttam Adhikari is Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. The spiritual master may not be on that platform, but it's the duty of a disciple to see him on that platform. That's the duty of the disciple. And we are all trying to help them to assist them in their mission. That is our, Finally, we are nearly there. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a nice explanation of the difference between Archan and Bhajan. Archan refers to the platform of sadhana bhakti, in which one serves the Lord to carry out the rules and regulations of the process. Archan is deity worship. One who has achieved the shelter of the Lord's holy name and is totally engaged in the attempt to serve the Lord should be considered to be on a platform of bhajan, even though his external activities may sometimes be less strict than those of the neophyte engaged in archan. So the bhajan is on a higher platform that has a shelter of the holy name. That is because in that state, when I have the shelter of the holy name, one is always in contact with the Supreme Lord. This apparent lack of strictness, however, refers to the laxity not in the basic principle of same behavior and renunciation of sense gratification, but rather in the details of Vaishnava ceremonies. So we went to the Madhyam Adhikhari. That so any questions, comments? That
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All good to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Maharaj, earlier you mentioned that we should act like a Madhyam Adhikhari. Because we are, even if in Kanishta, still we can act. But then many times when we are acting, we are basically, we may offend someone, or we may misunderstand others' position. How we can save ourselves from that?
Therefore, the purpose of this nectar of instructions is to educate us in who is advanced and not advanced. And we have to learn the symptoms that we can understand the devotee who comes to us, serves in our temple, and the devotee he loses enthusiasm, is not very into the mission because he has other goals in his mind. That's not a very advanced devotee. We can understand that. But then a devotee who is really helping and assisting and making plans to make the project work and to attract more people, or to educate them in a better way, we can understand this person is acting on a Madhyam platform. And then we should offer obeisances, the verses, and take his association and cooperate, develop deep friendship. And to that friendship, there will be a stimulus to work together. So we have to try to bring that in practice. And sometimes we make errors, but that's okay. That success, the pillars of success are based on failures. As long as we learn from our failures, it's good. We are making progress. That it does not mean that we are not respecting the neophytes. Also, we are respecting them. But we have to see on what platform they are, and if they are neophytes, we try to uplift them. That is also always the dilemma of a guru. that Shiksha or Diksha, you get new people and you have to educate them. How to do that? That you have to find out on what platform that they are. And that mostly that's not so difficult, but then how to engage them, that how to uplift them, and that it's a whole endeavor. What is their nature? You have to inspire them, not order them. That is upliftment of those who are not much elevated. But it's quite easy to see one who is dedicated to the mission will do everything for the mission. And one who has no enthusiasm because of offensive mentality. Offensive mentality means I want more for myself than for the mission. And then it goes on. But it's a learning curve that if you're asking me, how can I avoid offenses? Very difficult to avoid that. But we should learn from our mistakes and we become more and more expert through the time. That, of course, offense can be avoided by following Vaishnava etiquette. Can always think our Guru Maharaj Bhakti Charamaj, how would he deal with it? That we have seen how he dealt with so many cases. And we can learn from that also. Does that help, Purnachandra?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj. And I have a follow-up question on that, if it is okay.
Yeah, okay.
So from the individual perspective, like if we know that we are not on that level, we are still in Kanishta and struggling to control our mind, struggling to discipline or regulate our life. Still, we should try to act like a Madhyam Adhikhari.
Yes, that's our duty. By acting as a Madhyam Adhikhari, we will get the mercy of the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada, and we will become gradually a Madhyam Adhikhari. That will bring us to the, because if you develop friendship with devotees, then you will combine the strength to cooperate and to preach to the innocent. That yes, that is how we should act. Even as every neophyte, from the moment he's going through the education, Bhakta class, and so on, should come to that point of being committed. That so mostly we become in contact with the movement, and we become a congregational member. Then we become an active member, and then we want initiation. Then we become committed. But then when we are committed, you must go to the core, become a core member. A core member, that means committed to the mission, committed to acting as a Madhyam Adhikhari. So that's a level of education. In the beginning, we are beginners. That, but then after initiation, we should really become serious. That and act as a Madhyam Adhikhari and become a core member. That and by that push forward the mission. That's the way to get to mercy. And to push forward the mission, you must act as a Madhyam Adhikhari. That otherwise you can't. That would be my comment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very much
Good.
for your guidance.
Then we see tomorrow for the Bhagavatam class. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.